Hello, Tennessee Voices viewers and listeners. This is David Plazas, the Opinion and Engagement Director for the USA Today Network Tennessee and the Tennessean. I'm delighted to have a chance to talk to members and also staff from Equal Chance for Education, which is a very impactful nonprofit that has connected scholars with scholarships so they can attend college. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. I want to turn it over first to Molly Haynes, who is the Executive Director of Equal Chance for Education, and then we'll talk to two very prominent guests who are here on our show to talk about their experiences. Molly, how are you doing today?
Good, I'm doing great. It's good to see you, David. Thank you.
You as well. So tell us a little bit about ECE for those who are not familiar.
Sure. So we have been in existence for about 9 years now, supporting 536 students statewide at 15 partner colleges and universities. The reason that we're in existence is simply because our Dreamer students, which is an umbrella term for mixed immigration status students who've grown up in the state of Tennessee, find themselves ineligible for in-state tuition, student loans, and financial aid, regardless of how long they've lived in the state or in the country. So instead, our founder learned about this issue 8 years ago, Dr. Spalding, and decided to do something about it. Our very first student, Melissa Patino, was a friend of his and an excellent student all throughout high school, learned that 2 years of community college would be close to $30,000 and instead paid for her to go to Lipscomb, where she received some financial aid. Since then, it's kind of continued and led to more and more partnerships where the colleges that we work with we negotiate tuition rates and they offer institutional funding that we then match. And then our students and their families pay a portion as well. So we've seen 179 students graduate. 2 are here today, and they're doing really great things. So the program's working, and we're just proud to be a small part of their continued success.
Thank you so much for that, Molly. And we are excited to have Saraí Ovalle and Scherly Gómez. Saraí is a teacher at Metro Nashville Public Schools, and Scherly is a graduate of Meharry Medical College. Let's start with Saraí. Tell me a little bit about your own story, how you got to Nashville and your connection with ECE.
Yes, so I came to Nashville when I was 3 years old. I was born in Mexico, in Acapulco. I came with my family. When we first arrived here, we lived with other family members. There was like 3 different families living in a small apartment. But I went to school I've been here since 3. I started school at J. Moss Elementary. I was in the beginning process of the EL program, which didn't look anything like it looks now back then. And I exited out of EL actually in about around 3rd grade, because I have 2 older sisters who they picked up English. And once they picked it up, it was easy for all of us to catch on. I remember my first year in America, it was pretty hard. Kindergarten, I didn't speak good English yet back then. It was a rough time, but and we also didn't have a lot of support. I was one of the only Hispanic students in my school, which is crazy when you look at the population of J. Moss in the area now. It's like predominantly Hispanic, but back then it was just me and my sister and my cousin basically in that school that was Hispanic. So it was a little rough, but then later on, we moved to the upper side of Antioch, which is around Mount View, closer to Laverne. And there was a bigger population there of Hispanic students. That's when I really got to see more people that looked like me in the community. But I had a good education. I felt like I was a normal person that blended in with everyone. And I think I didn't realize what it meant to be undocumented until my older sister, she was about to graduate high school, and she was a straight A student. She was really smart, and my parents took her to MTSU to try to apply to school there, and they basically just straight up told her, you can't go here, because she needed to have a social security number. And they were like, you don't have a social security, how are you going to sign up? And they just flat out denied her. And ever since then, I think I was in late middle school. I think I was in 8th grade around there when that happened. It didn't really hit me as much. I noticed there was something wrong, but I didn't realize how bad that was until I got to high school. And everything was like college. What college are you going to? What are you going to do to prepare for college? And it was just like always pushed on us, the college, this, college, that. And at the back of my head, I was just like, I can't go to college. And I know I can't go to college because my sister was told she couldn't go to college, and I'm the same as her. So I can't, and I think I was always a great student until that point. I kind of gave up in school. I started failing some classes. And every time my teachers told me, like, Sarah, you're bright, like you should try harder, do this. I couldn't believe them. And it was really hard to believe them, honestly, because none of my teachers looked like me and none of my teachers understood my situation. And I never felt comfortable enough to share my situation because I wasn't, I didn't even know how to tell them, like, I'm undocumented. Like I honestly didn't know how to bring up that conversation. So I just kept it to myself and was just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to college at first, just so that they could leave me alone. And I think senior year was when it really started weighing heavy, because actually it was my junior or sophomore year. It's blurring right now, but I joined this after school club called Latino Achievers through the YMCA. And that's when I first found out that I actually could go to college. And it was an amazing moment for me. Honestly, it was the first time I ever met a Hispanic professional. I had never seen a person that was in a professional like career that looked like me. And her name was Caro Cubillo. She was one of the leads in the YMCA Latino Achievers program. And when she told me, yes, you can go to college, it doesn't matter if you're undocumented, I was like, no, like I didn't believe it, but when she told me and really broke it down and she told me her story and how she became a resident of America, how she went to college before then and everything, it finally clicked. And I was like, oh, this is real. I can do this. And I started to try harder. That's when I started like making sure I got enrolled into like AP courses in high school to bring up my GPA from those classes I hadn't done well freshman year. And I, got the highest scores I could get. It pushed my GPA as far as I could. But regardless, when I graduated, it still wasn't enough. Having a high GPA didn't matter. That out-of-state tuition was ridiculous. And for my family, we just really could not afford that. But my parents really believed in me. They supported me a lot. And they asked a bunch of my aunts and uncles to help with helping me get through my first year of college. And when I went to college for 1 year. I went to WKU and because it was the cheapest thing at the time because they have some type of like tuition discount for Davidson County residents. I did it for a year, but I knew I couldn't keep doing it because it was a ridiculous amount of financial strain for my family. And I was like, I cannot continue to do this to my parents. And at the same time, I was thinking in the back of my head, like, I can't even get a job after this. I still don't have a social security number. I still wouldn't be able to do anything with this. So after my first year at WKU, I just stopped going to school. I was like, I'm not going to go back to college until I have a job and I can afford to pay for my own school. So I did for about 2 years. I just worked. And that's when I actually got a job. And one of my coworkers was like, you're really smart. Why aren't you in college? You're about my daughter's age. Why aren't you in college? I told her my situation and she was like, oh, I just heard about this doctor and he's actually helping people like you. And I was like, really? Who is this person? And honestly, it sounded too good to be true. I really didn't believe it because I had searched and searched for scholarships for undocumented students and I couldn't find anything. The only ones that I could find were like in the state of California for California residents. There was nothing available here. So I really didn't believe it. But at the same time, I was like, you know what, I might as well try. And I reached out and I think Dr. Spalding was in Russia at the moment when I called and he was like, but there's this girl named Scherly who's on this call with us today. Like she might be able to talk to you about the organization and see if you might be a good fit. So I actually met with Scherly at a McDonald's and she told me how she got the scholarship and I told her about me and she was like, no, like you're definitely going to get it. Like when he comes back, you're going to get this scholarship and was just like really positive and supportive. And yes, when he came back, I met with Dr. Spalding and as soon as I told him my story, he was like, you need to go to college and you need to go now. And he told me to apply to Trevecca. I remember I applied and I called to try to apply and they told me I couldn't because I think it was like a Thursday and school started that Monday, that upcoming Monday. And they were like, no, it's too late. You can't apply. So I told Dr. Spalding like, hey, I won't be able to enroll this semester. I might be able to do it next one. He was like, no. You're going to call back and you're going to insist in enrolling now. So I did, I called again. And then that time somebody else picked up and was like, you know what, if you can come in today, we'll sign you up. And I did. So I went straight to Trevecca and I got signed up. And when they looked at my academic record from WKU, they offered me like max academic scholarship that they could. And, you know, we were able to, with Dr. Spalding's support and then what we could put together myself, I was able to get in, and I did 3 years at Trevecca. I graduated with elementary education, bachelor's, and I won the Student Teacher of the Year award that year. I was like top of my class, and it was really an amazing moment, honestly, for my family, because I really didn't think it was going to be a possibility. One thing I forgot to mention, during that time, Obama was in office and passed the DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and I was able to get my social security number, get my driver's license and everything, and was able to start working. I started working for MMPS about almost 6 years ago now, and I love it here. I really do. I have my master's now as well. I got it through the Diverse Leadership Network scholarship as well. But EC really, if it wasn't for Dr. Spalding, I wouldn't be where I am. Like they changed my life. They completely changed my life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that story and for sharing your journey from coming to Nashville as a child to now becoming a successful teacher with a graduate degree. That's wonderful. So you talked about the fact that you met with Scherly at a McDonald's. So let's turn over to Scherly about your own experience coming to Nashville and how you encountered ECE.
That's so funny because I just remembered that encounter. I had completely forgotten about that. So my name is Scherly Gómez. I was originally born in Honduras, and I came to the United States when I was 8 years old. I came to Nashville. My mom was already here, and I had 3 younger sisters, all who were born here. Sorry, my dog. He was quiet with Saraí, but now it's when I'm talking. He's
No worries, no worries. We're all good. We all have those little interruptions at the house, I think.
So yeah, I started elementary school at Rosebank Elementary. And I remember I came into 3rd grade, like Saraí, it was a struggle because, you know, adapting to the culture, adapting to the new language. And same as with her, there wasn't anybody who, you know, spoke Spanish. It was all the environment and where I was at. I didn't have anybody that looked like me, that spoke my language. But I think I quickly like transitioned very easily. You know, my sister spoke very good English, and so I was able to fully learn very quickly. And then I fell in love with reading too, and I think that just like expanded my vocabulary even more. When I was in elementary school, I went to Lytton Middle School and then Bailey Middle School, and then I went to East High School. I think it's called something else now. It used to be East Literature Magnet High School, but now I think it's something else. But similar to Saraí, I think I didn't realize the extent and what it meant to be undocumented when I, up until I entered high school, with the same, you know, thing. It's like college is all about college. And I always wanted to go into healthcare. I loved science. I'm a huge nerd. So I loved math, I loved science, and I was like, I want to be a doctor someday, you know. And going into high school, I did everything that I needed to do. I took all the AP courses. My mom really pushed us. And I think my mom knew from the beginning the struggle that it was going to take. And she was always the type of person was like, you know, you do what you have to do and everything's going to lay out, you know, how it should be. And even, you know, came junior year and senior year when I was thinking there's no way, like, how are we going to pay for college, you know? And I would do my research and I knew about out-of-state tuition. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no way, like, and I would ask my mom, do we have any money saved up? Because, you know, a lot of the American households, the culture is, you know, parents help save up and have that fund saved for their kids. And I was like, Mommy, do we have any funds? Like, how am I going to do this? And she was like, you don't need to worry about that. You just need to worry about your classes and your grades. And so I did, and I applied to the colleges that I could apply to, which at that time were mostly just private universities. So I got accepted to Lipscomb and I got accepted to Trevecca. And Lipscomb was the university that offered me the most scholarships at that time. And my mom had to get another job. And then at that time, thankfully, I think between transitioning between senior year and first year of college, that's when DACA came to be. And so I was able to get, a part-time job while I was in school. And I did that first year at Lipscomb, maxing my credit hours, doing part-time, working. It was very exhausting. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this. And my mom too, she was very exhausted. I felt like there was time that she was kind of coming home very late, wasn't spending very much time with my other sisters. And so I was like, I really thought about kind of dropping out. At that time, I was a nursing major because I thought being a doctor was unattainable. Medical school was out of the question. If we were struggling to pay for undergrad, I can't even imagine, medical school is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So my mom actually wrote this very heartfelt letter to, I want to say someone in Conexión Américas. She was like, is there any help at all? And they were like, well, there's this doctor. And at that time, ECE was not founded. He was kind of, I think at that time was paying out of his own pocket to help a few students. And I met with him, me and my mom, and we were both very suspicious because we were like, we're meeting this man at his house. We don't know anything about him. And so we sat down and he was, I brought my resume with me. I was valedictorian of my senior class too. And so he was like, you're valedictorian, you have great grades. It's like, there's no way that you should not be in school. And he was like, what is it exactly that you want to do in life? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm a nursing student. And I was like, and he said, no, what do you want to do? Like, what is your goal? What is your dream? And I was like, my dream is to be a doctor. Like, I want to be a doctor. But, he was like, when I would say but, he was like, no, there's no buts. We're going to get you to medical school. Like, that was his line every time. He was like, Scherly, we're going to get you to medical school. And I mean, that's kind of what happened. It was honestly very surreal for me. I went through undergrad, I graduated a semester early, and then I was accepted to Meharry Medical College. And that in itself was also a struggle, and Molly was in that journey with me every semester. Meharry really helped me a lot, gave me scholarships, and we were able to find sponsors through ECE, through connections with Molly and Dr. Spalding. And, I graduated medical school in 2021, I want to say. And now I'm doing family medicine residency here in Ohio, and I'm halfway done. So honestly, I don't know where I would be without SCE or without Dr. Spalding. And I think, throughout, every time Molly asks me, anything to do with EC, I'm like, yes, girl, let's do it. Because, I owe them my career, I couldn't be where I am without them.
Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful story. And I hear both of your sense of resilience and humility and drive. And before we turn it over to conclusion for Molly, I just wanted to ask each of you, what advice would you give people in your predicament when you were in high school, if they're starting to ask these questions now, because we know there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes out there. But tell me a little bit about, let's start with Scherly and we'll end with Saraí.
Honestly, my advice would be what my mom told me. Is for you just to do your part, to make sure that you have your grades, to make sure that you do the work needed, to make yourself, what's the word, like applicable, to make yourself a good candidate for universities, for colleges. And, like you said, stories have power. And I've seen that personally in my life. I was able to share my story. And I'm not very, I'm not I can be shy, but I'm not a very shy person when it comes to sharing my story, because I know the power and the influence that it has. And don't be scared, to tell people your situations, because you never know what door can open through you sharing your story, and through, you sharing your resilience. You're like, I did all the work. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Thank you so much, Scherly. Saraí, what would be your advice?
Well, the same as Shirley, but the thing I would add on probably is just to hold on to that hope. Like, America is a country who changes so much. I mean, we are still waiting on some changes that we really want to happen, of course, especially when it comes to our immigration laws. But, you never know what's going to happen. And if you give up before the time comes, like, you're going to be kicking yourself for having done that. Like, if you're still in high school, and maybe right now, I know, like, they're not accepting new DAC applicants, and I know a lot of kids do feel like they're probably in limbo right now, how we felt when we were in high school. But by the time we got out of high school, if me and Shirley had gave up, if we had just let our grades continue to flunk because we're like, oh, well, there's no possibility, then when DACA came through, we wouldn't be in the position we are now. But it's just continue to hope, continue to do the best that you can, because you don't know what will happen next. And maybe, hopefully, something great will happen, and all these kids that are sitting in the same situations we were in will have something that can help them in their future as well. Like, we need to do something, obviously, in America, but once it happens, we need to be ready. We should be prepared, and we should be ready for that moment to happen. So we can't give up hope. We just have to keep trying and working hard for it.
Thank you so much, Saraí. And Molly, if you could tell us a little bit about the upcoming event for Equal Chance for Education, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First, I just want to brag on these two, because truly, had they not put in the hard work and be the trailblazers that they are on their campuses, they open doors for other students behind them. Like, because you two worked so hard, Trevecca and Lipscomb said we want more and more ECE students every single year. And so that's why we've continued to grow. So, and Shirley is one of 70 DACA recipients in the US to go to medical school. And Saraí just got some fantastic award and grant through MNPS. So you two just continue to make us so proud, and I'm just grateful to know you. But sorry, David, back to the topic.
No worries.
On April 13th, we're hosting an event called An Evening of Conversation with Don Graham. Don is another cut from the same cloth like Dr. Spalding, just saw something that needed to be done and did something about it. So his organization, the Dream.us, is the nation's largest scholarship program for dreamers. They're mainly in states that have tuition equity, but after getting to know them over several years, they've decided to come to Tennessee, and together through ECE have invested over $2 million in Dreamers Higher Ed in our state. So he is our featured speaker in a panel conversation with Senator Corker, Representative Jim Cooper, and UT President Randy Boyd. And we're still accepting reservations and tickets for that. It'll be a conversation kind of focused on higher ed and immigration trends throughout the US and in Tennessee. And that's at the Hermitage Hotel on April 13th. So we hope you guys can join us.
And how do people learn more about ECE and get tickets?
Yes, they may learn more at equalchanceforeducation.org. My contact information is on there. The link is still live to buy tickets, and feel free to reach me if you'd like to get involved or learn more about our program.
I want to thank our three guests here on our show today for Tennessee Voices. Please make sure to feature them here, whether here or in the Latino Tennessee Voices newsletter. We're very excited about featuring Equal Chance for Education and all the wonderful work that you do. So I commend you and thank you, Saraí and Scherly, for being a part of this conversation. I wish you the very best of success. Any final words from any of you before we conclude?
Well, we just like to thank you, David. You've been, in our corner since day one, and always, sharing our student stories, which, like you said, is the most important piece. So thank you for being our friend.
No, my pleasure. It's so great to see the successes. So that makes me tremendously happy. And if you can see in my backdrop, I've got the Equal Chance for Education Community Impact Award that I received a couple of years ago. So I'm very proud. It's the only one that you'll find in my backdrop. It's the proudest award that I have. So thank you.
Oh, we love that.
Well, I hope you stay well and healthy, and We are recording this on March 31st, so have a great weekend.
Thank you.